Have you ever walked away from someone you care about and still feel strangely, quietly exhausted? Hello, and welcome back to From the Therapy Room Psychology of Mind and Body. I'm Jyoti, your host, a clinical counseling psychotherapist. I'm really glad that you're here. You're welcome to follow this space and stay connected for such deep psychological insights. This is a space where we gently explore the inner landscapes of human mind, where psychology meets lived experiences, and where the stories we carry inside finally find language. In this podcast, we explore the psychology behind everyday human experiences, emotional experiences, the things we often struggle to understand within ourselves, but feel very deeply in our day to day life. Have you ever been with someone and nothing was technically wrong, but you still felt tired afterward? Not physically tired, but something deeper, quieter, like your mind won't switch off, like your body feels slightly heavy, like you need space, but you don't know even why. And then this thought comes, why am I feeling like this? They didn't even do anything. So you dismiss it. You tell yourself you're overthinking and you move on. But the feeling doesn't really leave, it just goes underground. Today, we are going to gently sit with that feeling and understand why relationships can feel emotionally draining, even when everything looks completely normal on the outside. Emotional drain doesn't always come from toxic relationships. Sometimes it's look like being the one who always listens but is rarely heard. Adjusting your tone, your mood, your needs just to keep things smooth. Overthinking after every interaction. Did I say so much? Did I say too much? Did I upset them? Or even the subtle one, feeling responsible for how the other person feels. And slowly, without noticing, you start carrying more emotional weight than the relationship was meant to hold. Not because you're weak, but because somewhere you learn to relate this way. Emotional drain doesn't always look like conflict. Sometimes it looks like quiet adjustment. You're sitting with someone and you're listening, really listening, but somewhere inside you wish they would ask, and how are you really? Or you're texting someone and you pause before replying, reading your message, softening your words, removing anything that might be misunderstood. Not because you are dishonest, but because you are trying to be acceptable. And maybe no one asked you to do this, but you still do it. Or you notice this after certain conversations, your mind keeps replaying things. Did I sound rude? Were they upset? Should I have just said less? And even when the interaction is over, your nervous system is still in it. It's in these small moments, saying it's okay when you felt hurt just to avoid tension. We all do these things. Smiling when something didn't sit right, staying present when you actually needed a break, and being available when you are already emotionally full. These moments don't feel big individually, but together they create a quiet exhaustion. Here is where it gets deeper. What drains us in relationships is often not just the present moment, but the past quietly replaying itself in how we connect, respond, and attach. And the confusing part is you might actually care about this person. There may be no clear problem, no label you can attach. What makes it harder? Which makes it harder? Because you can't point to anything and say, this is why I feel this way. But emotional exhaustion doesn't always come from what is happening. Sometimes it comes from what is being carried silently. So, if we are going to see it from a psychodynamic lens, relationships are not just about two people in the present, they are a meeting point of histories. Your nervous system, your emotional patterns, your expectations of love, they were shaped long before this relationship began. So when you feel drained, it is often because you are unconsciously doing one of the things which I'm going to share now, uh, like re- repeating emotional roles. Maybe you became the strong one very early in life, the one who didn't need much, the one who held space for other. And now in your adult relationships, you don't even realize you are still playing that role. You give, you hold, you understand. But inside, there is a quiet exhaustion that never gets acknowledged. In many relationships, we are not just being ourselves, we are being a version of ourselves that was once necessary. Maybe you became the understanding one very early in life, the one who didn't create problems, the one who adjusted, the one who sensed what other needed and became that. And now, even when no one is asking you to do it, you still do it. You listen more than you speak, you hold more than you express, and over time, this becomes invisible labor, not seen, not acknowledged, but deeply felt. If you grew up in an environment where emotional safety was unpredictable, you may have learned to constantly scan. Are they okay? Did their tone change? Is something wrong? This is not overthinking. This is adaptation. But in relationships, this hyper attunement becomes draining because you're not just being present, you're constantly monitoring. If you grew up around unpredictability, emotional, relational, or even subtle tension, your system learned something very intelligent. Stay alert, stay aware, and stay prepared. So now in relationships, you notice everything. You notice tone shifts, pauses, changes in energy, and you don't just notice, you interpret everything. So you adjust yourself in response. I'm not saying this is weakness. No, this is not weakness. This is your survival intelligence. But the cost of it is that you are never fully at rest. For some, even a small emotional distance feels threatening. So you overcompensate, you explain more, you fix faster, you stay longer than you should in uncomfortable conversations. Because somewhere deep inside, disconnection doesn't feel like a moment, it feels like abandonment, and the fear consumes energy. For some people, emotional distance doesn't feel neutral. It feels like something is slipping away. So Even small things, a delayed reply, a slightly distant tone, can create an internal urgency. And you move quickly to repair. You explain more, you soften more, you reach out more, not because the situation demands it, but because your system remembers something deeper. And that constant reaching is really exhausting. So, what's drained you is not just the relationship, it is the efforts to feel safe within that relationship. So, maybe the question is not why I'm so drained by this person, but something more honest and more compassionate. What am I doing inside this relationship that I don't even realize I'm doing? Because awareness doesn't blame you, it frees you. So, question is not just why is this relationship draining me, but also why I'm carrying into this relationship that make me feel in this way. And this is not about the blame. Like I said, this is about the awareness, because what is unconscious often becomes exhausting. Let's bring it back to everyday life. Emotional drain often hides in a small repeated patterns, saying it's like okay when it is not, or listening even when you're already full, avoiding difficult conversation, and then trying the weight, carrying the weight silently, being emotionally available for others but disconnected from yourself. And over time, you just don't feel drained by the relationship, you just feel disconnected from yourself within the relationship. Emotional drain often hides in patterns that feels normal, like being the one who checks in first every time, being emotionally available even when you are struggling, avoiding difficult conversation, and carrying the weight alone. And slowly something shifts. You stop asking yourself what do I feel, and start asking what will keep this connection okay. And that's the moment where you begin to lose energy, not because of the other person, but because you're no longer fully inside yourself. Healing, this doesn't start with changing the other person, it begins with noticing, where am I overgiving? Where am I abandoning my own emotional limit? Where am I confusing love with emotional labor? And gently, slowly, learning a different way of relating, not from fear, not from old roles, but from presence, where you can care without carrying everything, where you can listen without losing yourself, where you can love without feeling exhausted. Healing doesn't mean you stop caring, it means you start noticing where care turns into self abandonment. It means asking, where I am I overextending? Where am I not being honest with myself? Where am I carrying emotions that are not fully mine? And slowly practicing something new, staying present without over adjusting, expressing without over explaining, caring without over carrying. This is not easy because you're not just changing the behavior, you're softening pattern that once protected you. If this resonated with you, I would really invite you to pause and reflect on this. Where in your relationship do you feel mostly emotionally tired? And what might you be holding there that isn't fully yours? And you can share your reflection in the comments. Because sometimes hearing someone else put it into words remind us that we are not only ones carrying this. And if this has stayed with you, you can follow and subscribe so we can continue exploring these inner spaces together. If you have ever felt tired in relationship that looks fine, just write I feel this in the comments. Sometimes naming it is the first release if you don't want to write a big thing like I encouraged you to do it earlier. Thank you for spending this time with me today. This has been from the therapy room, Psychology of Mind and Body. I would love to hear your reflection again. I am encouraging you. Feel free to share this podcast with someone who might need to hear it. Until next time, take care of your mind, your body, and the quiet spaces within you. See you. I'll be just sitting right beside you. Take care.